The Big D, WDRC, remembers the way it used to be.
I got to tell you, one of the neatest things about putting this whole reunion together has been catching up with just our Big D family, and it really is amazing. Now, some of our family, well, they just don't have their license anymore, and they're not allowed to fly. So, for in particular, some of the people that you probably remember, and they're trying to hope you forget. On the line with us right now is just one of the best. In fact, a man who dances extremely well with his shirt up over his head back when he was wild and crazy. I think he still may be. Steve Skipp, how are you, Steve?
I'm doing fine, Steve Parker. Great to talk to you. Hi, everybody.
Yep.
I hope everything is well with you guys.
Hey, Steve, one of the questions that always comes up is, was Steve Skipp your air name, or was that your real name? Is that it's Skipp, but we know we used to call you Skipper, of course. But was that an air name, or was that your real name?
No, that's my real name.
Really? Okay. So every time that they would say, he always skipped school. Steve skipped school, right? I didn't name him.
Oh, I've done that. Yeah, I did that a couple times.
But actually, it must have been funny because you have to always tell people there's two P's in Skip.
Yeah, PP, and they look at me funny.
A good sense of humor. So, Steve, where are you living now?
I'm in Florida between Sarasota and Fort Myers on the Gulf side, near Port Charlotte.
We're so lucky that, we should have just done the show in Florida. We got so many guys that we're trying to reach in Florida. So, Steve, where did you come from before you came to Big D, Big D FM? Where
Okay. I worked at every one of those stations in Waterbury, every station, all of them. Mm-hmm. And I worked at one about 5 different times.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, 5 different times. They kept. In fact, I think, was it right that we found you there, or you've been sending air checks, or did we find you in Waterbury?
I think you found me.
Yep. And my dad used to love to go on listening trips, and he would just go around, and he loved to go to markets. He loved to go to smaller markets and bring guys into bigger markets. And then, like Hartford. And then if they wanted to fly from there, he was always great about that. Wherever they wanted to go, he never tried to clip anybody's wings. But so what year was it that you arrived at DRC FM?
I think it was about 1980. I'm just guessing. It could be a year off or close to that. And one of my big thrills was interacting and meeting and talking to and becoming a friend of Charlie Parker, your dad, who was a unique man, and I miss him to this day. Well,
it was wonderful because I was actually I'd gone into the dark side back then because I couldn't make enough money as a copywriter. So they said if I went into the sales side, which I never wanted to do, but I get to do my own commercials. So I used to be way down at the other end of the building in the sales office, and every now and then, my dad would just crank that receiver up in his office, and I'd look out in the hallway, and he'd be in his shirt and tie, but he'd be dancing like mad, and you were straight in front of him, and you used to, and this happened quite often, and you would pull your T-shirt up over your belly, and you would just dance with him. It was hysterical.
Yes, I had some strange moments, no doubt. That was a great station, though. When I first got to the DRC, I was a little nervous, a little apprehensive, but I was so proud of myself to get hired at WDRC, a great station in its day.
Well, I appreciate that, but I will say though that all of you, my dad was a big believer, and you work with him, not for him. And I was talking to Jim Harrington recently. Dave Overson and I were in here speaking to him briefly, and he had said something along the lines of when he came in for his audition, within an hour and a half of sitting there with my dad, they were laughing hysterically and telling jokes and everything else. It's just. Did they put you through an audition, or were you able to go right on the air?
I can't really remember. They probably had an audition. Me, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. So where did you, once you moved on, how long were you, do you remember ballpark, how long you were at the station?
I was there about 3 years, give or take a few months.
Yep. And where did you go after that? And what was it that made you want to leave? I mean, were they, my dad was out of there, I think, while you were still there, which was probably around 1983. Yes. So
yes.
Where did your career go after that?
Went right down the tubes, man. Right down the toilet. No, I went back to Waterbury. I worked at Waterbury various times, the different AMs. And then I got over into the Danbury, New York State area, working at B105, which is no longer around, is an oldie station in Putnam County.
Now, what was it where you finally said enough is enough, and did you retire? Did you go off into another career, or what happened eventually?
Well, radio kind of changed, as you might well know, and my last job in radio, I left voluntarily because they had a new owner and they were just cleaning house. So that's what happened there. Then I eventually moved to Florida not too long after that.
And you have quite a family too. I follow you on Facebook from time to time. And have you got grandchildren yet, or what have you got?
Oh yeah, I got a bunch of them, man.
Yep. How many kids? How many children and then grandchildren?
3 daughters. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Five grandchildren.
Wow. Now, you still have the pipes, so do you ever do any freelance work or voice work or anything down in Florida?
No, I really haven't, because I don't have a studio to really practice.
Yeah. I think what we're finding now, though, fortunately, is the longer we go along, the stuff that they're doing right now. I mean, I've got stuff on my iPhone app that even if I don't, necessarily want to, I want something a little bit richer maybe, but in many cases in a pinch, you got to cut a quick spot or something, you can do that. And it's, it's really, just hide in your closet. Remember the days in the closet? No. Just hide in your closet, get that, muffled sound, wrap a trench coat around your head or something. But so when you look at the years you spent at Big D, do you have any certain memories that stood out, or maybe fans that called, or what kind of things do you remember about being there for that period of time?
I remember driving up to Hartford from Waterbury on, Monday through Saturday, and it was like a race. I'd see some of the same people in the same cars, and we kind of we had an Indy 500 coming up '84. It was a lot of fun, and never got a ticket. Unbelievable, but it's true. And they had some great restaurants up on Blue Hills Avenue. I remember enjoying those.
Oh my God!
And the people at WDRC, man. The people, that was a great. Like you said earlier, it's like a family. They were always friendly and nice, and your father was a great people person, which I appreciated. He was just a good guy. He's one of the only guys who, after I had left DRC, he called me up and said, "Gee, I'm sorry to hear that." But it meant a lot to me. He was a great man.
Well, it's interesting because what I found with him, and I've since done some air work with people that had absolutely no one, I don't know how it even happened, but did some overnight stuff, with a hot AC format with KISS, and and now I do quite a bit of talk stuff whenever I can, as long as there's no paycheck involved. There should never be a paycheck that throws off a great relationship with a radio station. I found that out. But it's interesting because all the different changes that have happened, when you look at it, my dad was somebody who loved to take guys like you that had talent, but the talent you had, he didn't want to change. He just wanted to show you maybe a broader way to play your instrument. He would love use your own creativity, use your own imagination, and I think that's what he usually saw in most of the men and women that worked for him, was to help them get, some of the stuff that happened in the station, Steve. I mean, people, they go, well, was it as crazy as KRP? And you go, if they only knew. Oh, much crazier. But it was interesting. It wasn't about, even stunts, because he would listen to the radio all night long. So if somebody tried something at, 4:15, he might just call him and say, okay, well, correct that. And also knew that, like, as I'm sure you hear these days, a lot of the men and women that are on the air now think they have to be constantly funny. And he would say, do you think Jack Benny could be on the air for, 4 or 5 hours a day, 6 days a week, and constantly be funny? So, the whole idea.
No, he was great. He was a good guidance. He was a fair, smart man, and I appreciated knowing him.
Now, who were some of the guys that were in there that were on the air around your period of time? AM, FM, what did you have around you then?
Oh, on the FM, Jerry Christopher was the morning guy, then Big Don Brooks, and then myself, Skipper, in the afternoon, and then Larry Wells at night. and I guess I can't remember who was the overnight guy. I don't remember.
Oh boy, I don't know. I know. I'm not sure if Mike Grady was.
Oh,
still
maybe
there.
it was Dean Richards. Does that sound?
Oh
familiar?
yeah, Dean. Yeah, Dean went on to RCH, and after I don't know what year he did that. Now on the AM side, I'm sure you remember Brad Davis.
Oh, sure, Brad Davis and Phil Britton. I know, and there's so many people that you kind of forget their names.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. It's funny when we were putting this reunion together. Thanks to Ed Bruder, who was Big D Man from Mars, and now he has his own production company, Man from Mars Productions, and he's an archivist, and he's collected so many things. What about contests? You remember anything like that, Skipp, that stood out? Maybe.
Oh yes. I screwed up a couple contests, no problem. I got a little trouble for that, but that's beside the point. It was a great place, and there was always something. Your father's very inventive with some of the things he put together.
Yeah. Now, what was it, Skipp? What did your kids think? Because I remember what it was like. My sister and I, being in the radio business, and with my dad being in the radio business, and we were the kids, and it was just so great. What did your girls think when you were in this kind of a living?
They were, they weren't really sure about what I was doing, but I brought them up to WDRC one day.
Yep.
Because we were going to go see Rick Springfield that night. So I brought them up for the afternoon, and then we went to the show. But during the day, we were sitting in the coffee room, the lunchroom, and I had to go on the air. And unbeknownst to me, it was someone's birthday. I think it might have been Tom Ray's birthday. And they had some hoochie coochie girl come dancing with a birthday cake, and the girls were like, "What's going on here?"
That's back when
pretty funny.
That's back when you could have a hoochie coochie girl. Now today everything's got to be politically correct. But
No,
yeah,
it wasn't real bad. It was it was adult fun.
Oh yeah, well I could tell you what they did to me when I was working at another radio station, and I was working there actually the morning of my wedding. And yeah, they decided to have someone come in, and they said it was about sales relationships. And yeah, management left because they said it wasn't appropriate for them to be around anymore. And it was actually the women on the sales staff that put this all together. So yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Did you anything you remember that you had to get out of, Skipp, where maybe things crashed a little bit, or things weren't, you had to kind of vamp because you were live? I mean, a lot of people, these days, I mean, you must have had live commercials back then that you had to do, right?
A few, not a lot, but a few. One thing that I do remember, I talked to Charlie, your dad. I said, "Charlie, do you mind if I do like a station tour?" He said, "What do you mean a tour?" I said, "I've got a wireless mic, and I just go around to the different offices, the different departments, and I'll talk to the people." And I think it went on a little too long, but it was different.
So you kind of a little bit of theater of the mind, and you took people through the place.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that had to be wild. Well, it's funny because so much of these things I can remember. Some of the stunts, and really, especially back in, probably in the '60s, where you could get away with a lot more. He was always just in awe of some of the guys that would pull things, and he would always go, "What?" And he was always proud of the guys that did things, as long as they used some sort of, they had to have their act together, and to do it, it had to be implemented correctly. It couldn't just be slipshod. But a lot of times I'd see him smiling, and I really do remember. I think it was Joey Reynolds, and he stuck a record back in the '60s, and they literally broke the door down to the radio station and arrested him on the air. "Who's your program director?" "Charles R. Parker." And my dad was just standing there in the kitchen at home and smiling, listening to the radio. It was he would because I think all the guys knew. If it was a shock jock, he might show you how to be a little bit more shocking. But as long as it wasn't something where you specifically were told not to do something. And then you
he was
did
great.
it. Now, what about now? You must back then. Did we have? Was Jimmy English still in there doing the music?
Oh yeah, he was.
And what kind of music were we playing back then? Was it still?
We're playing top 40 stuff.
Yeah, I think I remember when my dad unfortunately was in the hospital. I know that was where he flipped the format to oldies. And Dick Corson, who was the general manager back then, my dad, from his hospital bed, he said, Tell them that they should go into oldies. Tell them to start on the AM because they won't bite the bullet and do the FM right now. Start with the AM because without having a program director there, it's the music that DRC was known for. So as opposed to going through, picking the music all the time and all that. But
yeah, that was a traumatic time for a lot of people, Steve. I want you to know that.
Well, I appreciate that. It was pretty traumatic for me because my mom and dad met there during World War II. My mom worked there before my dad. And it was really, when I had to make the decision to leave, it was really, because my dad wasn't coming back. And it wasn't just the fact that it was, my dad, but it was also the fact of the energy, the laughter, the insanity when he would enter the building.
He was the glue, your father. He was a program director supreme.
Yeah, well, I thank you. And I hear that from a lot of people. So when you finally did decide to leave and you were welcomed back into Waterbury again, what was it like going back home again? I mean, was it had the stations changed much? Because you had ATR over there, and you had CO, and what in the Waterbury market? What else was around there?
There was a station in Naugatuck I worked at for a while, and there was a station. You mentioned them all. My first radio station was W104. It was the first country station in Connecticut. I don't know if you remember that one.
Oh, I remember well because I sold it when it was Magic 104.
Right. But I'll tell you what, that was a great response there. The country fans really dug that. But it was a great place for me I worked there for about a year. Then I got replaced by automation. That was my first job. Got replaced.
And I think when Merv Griffin bought the group, I think that's when maybe Al Pellegrino, the general manager, wanted to change that format. And Merv was baffled because it was doing so well. And Al said, let's go to soft rock. Yeah. But I guess the time was coming for that. And of course, WWYZ 92.5 ended up going into country, and that was successful. And to this day, they're still doing that. But what do you think of today's radio? What do you listen to?
Well, here's the thing. I got to be honest with you. I don't listen to it too much. I'm kind of got all my music, all my albums I gave away, and I just got a lot of CDs, and I put them all on my computer so I could listen that way. In the car, I'll listen to it here and there, but it's not the same. There's no, it's kind of canned. There's not a lot of personality.
Well, they're not. That's the problem is if they're a lot of them are automated, and they go in and they take a 4-hour show and cut it in an hour and just do liners and stuff, and they're just not. Even years ago, I remember. I think Imus had said it, where he was so popular because program directors weren't doing their jobs. They weren't out looking for the next Imus or the next that. They were just kind of like pay a syndication fee and just, leave it on autopilot. And that was kind of a sad time. Yeah, you couldn't really.
Voice. I think voice tracking really hurt radio.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me? I mean, and it sounds like they're there anyways. It's just like it's just awful what they've done to it. But I will say, there's still some little. Stations that, are maybe in the backwoods of nowhere. There's still some AM stations out there. There's still some stations that do communicate a little bit. And I think there's a lot of people that are left in the business that aren't even making, the money that they used to make or close to it because, corporate says.
I know Christine Stone. She works at I can't remember the name of the satellite company.
Oh, Sirius. Sirius?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, she works at. And of course, Howard Stern. I mean, they were outspoken, and he's a character, and he used it to build his wealth, for no doubt. Yeah,
well, that's the funny thing because when people will always say, especially with Connecticut School of Broadcasting, and they'll say, what does it take, to be, a DJ back then, and my dad, when he wrote the commercials, original commercials for Connecticut School of Broadcasting were average voice, average intelligence, but above average ambition. And that was Howard Stern. That's why he's making $90 million a year or whatever, because he knew he was the king of media when nobody else did. And,
right.
But he loved that.
There's still some good spots on the radio dial, but a lot of it is not as good as you and I would like to hear.
Oh yeah, and who knows where it's all going? But you can't really worry about that now. Everybody's got the same playing field. So many, most of the stations stream now, and we don't know where the future is going to be with so many people customizing their own stations with Pandora and Spotify and all that. But what do you like to listen to, Skipp?
You mentioned it, Pandora. I got that on a lot.
And what kind of music are you listening to when you listen to your stuff?
Well, I'll tell you, I do some of the classic stuff like Billy Joel and stuff like that. But I like the new age music, and I like some of the hard rock and roll music.
Yeah, I think it's. Do you find yourself in the car doing talk-ups every now and then? Do you fall into the Steve Skipp and?
I do it in the living room, man.
Yeah, it's funny how you do that. Yeah, somebody asked me that one time. I said, "You kidding me? I got a routine for the ATM. Whatever it does." I get sometimes telemarketers will call, and if I don't recognize the number, I'll do something like, "Hey, you're calling number 7. Thanks a lot and congratulations." The what? Well, yeah, you're on the air. You called the station. What can I do for you? Throws off What size T-shirt do you take? Whatever we got to do. Well, Skipper, I appreciate you hanging out with us a little bit for our reunion. I wish you could be here. I wish we had the capability of sending. Well, I think we used to have Dick Futner, who flew our traffic copter years and years and years ago. If we could get that traffic copter, the big glass bulb type of thing, and come get you. But just being able to share some time with us now from your home in Florida. Anybody else in the family left up this way, Steve?
Yeah. I've got my youngest daughter's there.
Yep.
I've got another daughter out west and another daughter out in California.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Just spread around.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And if you do get up this way, please look us up because boy, the stuff that we can't talk about here would be fun to talk about there. So
you ain't kidding.
That's really.
I really appreciate you getting me involved in this. You're a spark plug, buddy. You do a nice job.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why I'm the guy that's in the middle, and every time I do an air shift, they go, yeah. Say hi to your dad for me. Let me get the door. But yeah, there's still nothing like it, and to be able to do this and connect with guys like you, oh my God, we just need to leave the lines open because we all know that as we move through life and kind of open up that newspaper and holding it back a little bit, hopefully we're not finding ourselves or anyone else in there, but to just connect with everybody, do it 100 years and just be able to connect with the guys that I remember, growing up, through the 60s and 70s and 80s and whatever. It's just great for me.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. You can talk a lot. I appreciate that.
That's why they threw me off of any kind of top 40 or anything else like that. The guy just talks too much. Talk radio. In many cases, I'm talking about radio when I'm on the radio because I still believe that from a creative standpoint, there's nothing like radio because we all know exactly what Steve Skipp looks like because we all knew when you were on the air what you look like. It's so personal that way, and you sound exactly the same now, and that's why doing this kind of stuff means a lot. And these are all going to be posted. Probably be able to get them through a YouTube channel, and then go to WDRCOBG.com. There's also a virtual guest book if you want to go over there and sign in, and all this stuff is going to be living on especially for the people that can't make it to the reunion, where they can go back and just connect with that and take this walk back. And it's really it's just awesome, man. I'm going to keep your number. We exchanged them a while ago, but even now through text and email and that, hopefully we keep everybody in touch with each other and just never lose that tie, because that's what it's all about. You're just a great Big D brother. You guys were all my brothers and sisters, and God bless you, man. Thanks a lot for spending some time with us.
Well, thank you, Steve, for including me in this. I really appreciate it, and you're a good man, buddy. You take care of yourself, and everybody up there, be healthy. Remember, keep the faith. It won't hurt you one bit.
Hey, Dave, you can let him out of the studio now. I think we're recording. I can't believe he didn't have the sense to come on. God, wonderful guy. Steve Skipp, God bless you, man. Take care, and let's keep the lines open, okay?
You got it, buddy. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. Steve Skipp. We wouldn't want to skip him because it just wouldn't be the same. All right. Catch you next time. And maybe you never know who the next surprise might be. And we might be coming for you. See ya.